Hello, and welcome to Midnight Tales, a space where everyone can immerse themselves in peace and enchantment before drifting off to sleep. Tonight, we'll explore another captivating story that invites calm and lightness, helping you rest and recharge. But first, let's take a moment to gently prepare our bodies and minds for a soothing, restorative night's sleep. Make yourself comfortable, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, allow any cares from the day to slip away. It's not always easy to detach from the hustle and mental overload, especially before bed. However, remember this: the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the easier it is for our minds to release any tension. Let the rhythm of your breathing carry away lingering worries, and let the story you're about to hear guide you into deep relaxation. Now, close your eyes and allow the magical atmosphere to softly envelop you. Enjoy the story, and may you find peaceful, restful sleep here on Midnight Tales. In days long past, nestled within a quiet fold of the countryside, lived a young woman named Ilara. Her world was a simple cottage, shared with her mother, father, and a tumble of younger siblings. They were gentle souls, her parents coaxing a living from the earth, their hands calloused, but their hearts kind. Every child contributed, their small efforts woven into the fabric of farm and home life. Yet scarcity remained a familiar shadow. Ilara, being the eldest, shouldered responsibility like a well-worn shawl. Beyond the rhythms of washing, stirring pots, and watching over the little ones, her free moments were surrendered to the patient transformation of fleece into thread. Clothing a burgeoning family demanded endless yarn, a task vital as breath. Winter found her beside the cottage's old stone hearth, its warmth a comfort, her small white cat a soft curl at her feet as the spindle danced. But when warmth unfurled across the land, she craved a different vista, the kiss of open air. Ilara often sought the shade of a sprawling oak, or the murmuring companionship of a nearby stream, her spinning wheel, her steadfast companion. Amidst the sun-dappled leaves, the flit of cheerful butterflies, and the sweet chorus of birdsong, she would hum softly, spinning thread for as long as daylight allowed, her patience an unwavering constant, even when weariness settled deep in her bones. One luminous summer afternoon discovered Ilara perched upon the flat, sun-warmed stones encircling the cottage well. The air hummed with the drowsy labor of bees in the flower beds, adrift in the golden light of early summer. Near her feet, her cat sprawled in the grass, a study in feline repose. Not far off, framed in the cottage doorway, her youngest brother and sister meticulously arranged pebbles gathered from the path. Through the open window drifted the faint clink of pottery. Her mother, no doubt, orchestrating the evening meal within the kitchen's familiar confines. Lost in the day's beauty, Ilara's fingers moved with practiced grace, spinning and singing softly to herself, coaxing just a little more precious yarn into existence before the livestock demanded her attention. Glancing up, she saw Old Man Hemlock from the neighboring farmstead, ambling down the road, his dog trotting faithfully beside him. He lifted a hand in weathered greeting. Smiling, Ilara let her spindle rest in her lap, raising her own hand in return. A fatal miscalculation. In that fleeting moment, Her elbow nudged the spindle sideways. It tipped, wobbled, and then tumbled, vanishing into the dark maw of the well. Elara lunged, fingers grasping at empty air, too slow to halt its descent. Hope, frail but persistent, made her lean precariously over the stone lip, peering into the cool shadows, praying the spindle had caught on some protruding rock near the surface. But only darkness met her gaze. Desperate not to concede its loss, she stretched just an inch further. Balance betrayed her. Head first, she plunged into the well's silent throat. The fall was peculiar, devoid of the expected terror. No scraping stone, no rush of damp earth. Instead, a sensation of weightless drift through an endless void. Time itself seemed suspended. Darkness enveloped her, profound and absolute. Yet, glancing towards her feet, she perceived distant, twinkling lights, like stars scattered across an impossible night sky. They remained remote, but multiplied, their numbers swelling until she felt herself soaring, feet first, into this dazzling, inverted cosmos. Elara reached her arms downward, as if to brush against the glittering starlight. And then suddenly, she was inverted again, the stars wheeling above her. A rushing sound filled her ears, the roar of a hidden river, accompanied by a cool current of air washing over her skin. Down, down she plummeted, an immense drowsiness pulling at her eyelids. Then oblivion claimed her. Consciousness returned gently. She lay nestled in a meadow ablaze with wildflowers, gazing up at an immaculate, cloudless blue sky. Sitting up, she scanned her surroundings. No well yawned above or below. The earth showed no sign of disturbance. It was as if she had simply bloomed into existence in this new place. Testing limbs, touching her head, she found herself unharmed, remarkably refreshed, imbued with the peace of a long, untroubled slumber. She rose, surveying the landscape. Lush green stretched towards distant horizons, encircled entirely by a dense wood. In the meadow's heart stood a solitary cottage, a thin ribbon of smoke curling from its chimney. No soul stirred in the yard. No animal grazed nearby. A profound curiosity stirred within her. Standing idle offered no solution. The small house represented the sole prospect of aid. Elara resolved to approach it, setting off across the meadow, her steps parting the tall grasses where delicate butterflies danced on unseen currents. Reaching the dwelling, she found the front door standing ajar. Hesitant to intrude, she circled the exterior cautiously, utterly deserted. Returning to the open doorway, she peered into the dim interior and called out, "Hello? Is anyone home?" Silence answered her. As her eyes adjusted, she discerned a large oven radiating warmth from a banked fire. A table nearby lay strewn with scattered blossoms. In one corner stood barrels, hinting at stored provisions. The place felt like a baker's haven, momentarily abandoned. While Elara contemplated her next move, a chorus of tiny, melodic voices startled her, seeming to emanate from the vicinity of the oven. Believing her senses tricked her, she edged closer, tilting her head. Clearer now, the voices sang. "Hello. Pray, take us out. Our baking is done, ready for the feast." She recoiled. Surely the fall had addled her wits. Bread conversing from within an oven? Yet the sweet, urgent refrain persisted. "Hello, pray, take us out. Our baking is done, ready for the feast." A quandary, indeed. How could she, a stranger, interfere with another's baking? Still, the thought of charred loaves spurred her sensible nature. If the bread risked burning, surely the baker would appreciate intervention. Overcoming her reluctance, Alara located the long wooden peel leaning beside the oven and opened the heavy door. Inside, a row of beautiful, perfectly golden loaves rested. Using the peel, she carefully transferred them to the table to cool, then closed the oven door and replaced the tool. Hands on hips, she regarded the cooling bread with quiet satisfaction. She couldn't linger. Hopefully, the baker's return would bring pleasure, not annoyance, at the saved bread, especially if a feast was imminent. A less scrupulous soul might have claimed a loaf as fair compensation. Alara, however, left the bread untouched. The glorious aroma of fresh baking filling the small space as she reluctantly stepped back outside. No help was forthcoming here. She must press on. From the cottage, a faint, well-trodden path led directly into the surrounding woods, suggesting frequent passage. Following it seemed the most logical course. She turned towards the trees. The wood welcomed her, its canopy not so dense as to wholly obscure the sun, which dappled the forest floor in shifting pools of light. Squirrels chattered and leaped in the branches above, while birdsong filled the air. The path meandered pleasantly, winding over mossy roots and across diminutive, gurgling streams. Alara walked, humming softly, her earlier anxieties momentarily soothed by the tranquil beauty, though the question of her destination remained unanswered. After some time, the path led her into a sunlit grove dominated by apple trees. Weariness began to weigh on her, so she sank down beneath one of the trees to rest. Leaning her head against the rough bark, she closed her eyes, absorbing the forest's subtle symphony. The avian chatter, the drone of insects, the scuttling of unseen creatures in the leaf litter. Sleep hovered close, a gentle beckoning, but just as she drifted towards its edge, voices arose. Eyes snapping open, she listened intently. "Hello," they seemed to cry, a multitude of whispers from the branches. "We are heavy with fruit. Shake us, please, that the ripe apples may fall for the harvest." Having already encountered talking bread, Alara found this second marvel easier to accept in the strange tapestry of the day. With no pressing schedule, she readily complied. Moving from tree to tree, she shook each trunk firmly until a cascade of ripe apples tumbled to the ground. Unwilling to leave such disarray, she gathered the fallen fruit into the folds of her skirt, then carefully arranged neat piles at the base of each tree, taking care not to bruise a single one. Her task complete, feeling her time in the orchard was done, she resumed her journey along the path, leaving the bounty untouched. The harvest, after all, was not hers. Leaving the apple grove behind, a deeper fatigue settled upon Alara. She couldn't gauge how long she had walked, but the slanted light filtering through the trees and her own lengthening shadow spoke of the afternoon waning towards evening. Worry began to prick at her again. Where was she? Where would she find shelter for the night? Just as these concerns crested, the path emerged from the woods. Before her lay a broad clearing, bisected by a gently flowing river. In the distance, majestic mountains pierced the skyline. The beauty of the scene stole her breath. Down by the riverbank nestled a tidy little cottage, enclosed by a white picket fence. Flourishing garden beds surrounded it, and nearby, goats and sheep grazed peacefully. A snowy white eiderdown quilt hung airing on a long clothesline. From the stone chimney, a delicate wisp of smoke ascended into the pink and gold-streaked evening sky. Summoning her courage, Alara walked towards the inviting dwelling. Hope flickered, perhaps a bite to eat, a warm corner by the fire to rest her weary body. She reached the small gate, opened it carefully, stepped through, and secured the latch behind her. A path of gray flagstones led between vibrant flower beds to the cottage's arched front door, painted a cheerful cherry red. Pausing for a heartbeat, she knocked. A square peephole slid open unexpectedly, positioned slightly below her eye level. Bending slightly, Elara peered through and met another gaze studying her intently. "May I help you?" a woman's voice inquired, tinged with caution. "Yes, forgive me. My name is Alara," she began hesitantly. "I seem to have become thoroughly lost. I was hoping, might you spare a little food and perhaps offer a place, anywhere really, where I could sleep tonight?" The eye observed her for what felt like an age. Then the peephole snapped shut, and the entire door swung inward. Standing there was an older woman with a kindly face, dressed in simple, homespun cloth, covered by a practical apron. Her long white hair was swept back into a neat, no-nonsense bun. Squinting at Elara, she fished a whimsical pair of wire-rimmed spectacles from her apron pocket and perched them on her nose. Then her face broke into a broad smile. "Well now, my dear," the woman said, her voice warmer now. "Company is a rare thing here. If you'd be willing to lend a hand with a few chores about the place, I'd be most grateful and happy to share what little I possess in return." Relief washed over Elara. "Oh, yes," she replied quickly. "I'm quite capable with chores, and I would be deeply thankful for your kindness." "In you come, then," the woman beckoned. "It's growing late. You need food and rest. Help can wait for the morrow. There's always plenty to be done." A moment later, she added, "A pleasure to meet you, Alara. You may call me Dame Hall." Turning, Dame Holly gestured for Alara to follow. Alara stepped over the threshold into a space surprisingly cozy despite its low ceiling, barely clearing her head. She closed the door behind her. The interior comprised a single large room. To her left stood a table with 2 chairs. Nearby, a short counter held basic kitchen implements. Across the room, a bed frame awaited the eiderdown she'd seen outside. 2 rocking chairs flanked the large stone fireplace, a sewing basket resting between them. Over the hearth, a pot simmered, releasing the most heavenly aroma of stew Lara had ever encountered, reminding her sharply of her hunger. She didn't wait long. Dame Hall settled her near the fire and ladled out a generous bowl of the fragrant stew. They ate companionably in the flickering firelight as twilight deepened outside. After the meal, Dame Hall requested she fetch the eiderdown from the line. "No need to shake it now," she instructed. "I saw to that this morning." Alara ventured into the garden's soft darkness, retrieved the bulky quilt, and brought it inside to place upon the bed. Afterwards, she helped Dame Hull wash the dishes and tidy the kitchen space, without probing questions about Alara's origins or destination. The kind old woman produced a blanket and pillow from a wooden chest and prepared a makeshift bed for the tired traveler near the hearth. "Sleep now," Dame Hull said warmly. "Tomorrow will be busy." The fire's dancing flames were mesmerizing, comforting. Gratefully, Alara lay down on the soft bedding. The distant hoot of an owl, the occasional bleat of a goat, drifted through the quiet night. Within moments, she sank into a profound, dreamless sleep. Alara awoke with the rising sun, feeling more rested than she could ever recall. Following a simple breakfast, she eagerly awaited Dame Hull's instructions. Many tasks were familiar echoes of her farm life: tending goats, sheep, and chickens, washing, cleaning. Dame Holla, clearly advancing in years and finding the upkeep increasingly challenging, expressed delight at having capable young hands to help. With Alara's enthusiastic assistance, the cottage soon gleamed, tidy as a newly polished pin. One chore, however, Dame Holla emphasized with particular gravity. Every single day, she instructed Alara, her gaze serious. "You must take the eiderdown from my bed, carry it outside, and shake it with great vigor. Shake and shake until the small feathers fly free, restoring its lightness and loft. This is of utmost importance. Can you manage that?" Alara nodded solemnly, accepting the peculiar task without question. Each morning thereafter, she wrestled the heavy quilt outside and shook it relentlessly, tiny white feathers drifting like errant snowflakes, some carried away on the breeze, others settling softly nearby. Then she would hang the pristine eiderdown back on the clothesline to air until evening descended once more. Days melted into weeks. Alara didn't leave. She had nowhere else to go, and found genuine contentment in assisting Dame Hall. The old woman, in turn, clearly cherished the company and the help. A comfortable, companionable routine settled over the little cottage. After some time had passed, Dame Hall introduced a new responsibility. "I have another important task for you," she announced one morning, gesturing towards a large watering can with a long spout resting in a corner. "I need you to water my garden. Be thorough, miss no corner. Shower the water generously, so the seeds may awaken and yield a beautiful crop." Alara embraced this duty diligently. Countless trips she made, filling the can, ensuring a drenching shower reached every inch of the cultivated plots. She performed this task daily, and soon the garden responded with vibrant life. One section burst forth with tulips, irises, and daffodils in stunning hues. Another yielded crisp lettuces, sharp green onions, robust cabbages, and peppery radishes. Dame Hall possessed a miraculous touch with growing things. Alira's watering seemed merely the catalyst for inevitable abundance. Time flowed swiftly, marked by the rhythm of chores and shared evenings by the fire. Alara was happy, yet as months accumulated, a subtle change came over her. She grew quieter, more thoughtful, her gaze often drifting into the distance during their evening mending sessions. Dame Hola, observant and kind, eventually inquired gently what troubled her young companion. "Oh, Dame Holla," Alara confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "You have been so wonderfully kind, and I truly enjoy helping you here. But the truth is, I find myself missing my family terribly. My home feels worlds away, and I haven't the faintest idea how to return. I am overcome with homesickness, constantly wishing I could somehow find my way back up that well, back to the spindle I lost." Dame Hola listened with quiet sympathy. Then, reaching into the sewing basket beside her chair, she produced the very spindle Ilara had dropped that fateful summer day. Alara gasped, astonished. "My spindle? But how did you get it?" Dame Hall's eyes, the color of moss in deep woods, twinkled merrily behind her spectacles. "It landed in my garden, my dear. For you see, I am the keeper of the way between your world and this one. Little happens here that escapes my notice." Leaning forward, Ilara took the familiar wooden spindle, its smooth surface a tangible link to her past. "Then, you must know the way home. Can you help me return?" Dame Hall leaned back in her rocking chair, folding her hands serenely in her lap. She smiled, looking at Alara over the rims of her glasses. "You are a good soul, Alara, industrious and kind. I shall miss your presence, but it's right and proper that you return to your kin now. Sleep peacefully tonight. At first light, I will set you on your path." Overjoyed, Alara felt certain sleep would elude her, yet she was mistaken. Pocketing her long-lost spindle, she settled onto her familiar pallet by the fire. Once again, the magical ambience of Dame Hall's cottage The crackling flames, the nocturnal calls from the garden lulled her swiftly into a deep, restorative slumber. When dawn painted the sky, Alara folded her bedding neatly and stored it in the wooden chest. Then she took Dame Hall's eiderdown outside for its final, vigorous shaking before hanging it upon the line. "Thank you, my dear," the old woman said, emerging from the cottage carrying a woven basket. "This is for you." Lifting the lid, Ilara saw the basket was laden with beautiful, ripe apples and loaves of warm, freshly baked bread. Dame Holly continued, her voice gentle but resonant. "During your time here, your help has been invaluable. You rescued the baking when the oven cooled and I was occupied elsewhere. You gathered the apples when the trees groaned under their weight and my hands were full. Each day, faithfully, you shook the eider down until the feathers took flight. And finally, you tended my garden with water until it flourished." Humbled by the praise, Ilara shook her head slightly. "But those were simple tasks, Dame Holly. Anyone could have done them." The old woman smiled kindly. "Ah, but those simple tasks, my dear, are the very threads from which the seasons are woven. Tending the oven's fire brings forth the warmth and ease of summer days. Shaking the fruit-laden trees signals the arrival of autumn's harvest. Every feather you sent, flying from my eiderdown, drifts down somewhere in your world as a glorious snowflake, heralding winter. And when you carefully water my garden, you coax life back from the earth, beginning the cycle anew." She gestured towards the basket, now resting on Ilara's arm. "This basket shall never empty. Your family will share in the bounty earned by your diligence and good heart. You took no bread when it called to you. You ate no apples from the grove. Now I give them freely." Tears welled in Ilara's eyes, moved by this extraordinary gift that promised sustenance and comfort for her family. She embraced Dame Holly tightly, thanking her with heartfelt gratitude. Then, remembering the crucial detail, she asked, "But where must I go? How do I find the way back?" Dame Holly turned and pointed towards the river, flowing serenely through the clearing. "You arrived through water. Through water you shall return. Follow the river upstream. Walk for some hours, and you will eventually come upon a great stone bridge. Cross that bridge. The moment your foot touches the far bank, you will find yourself home." A pang of sadness touched Ilara. "Will I ever be able to come back to see you again?" Dame Hall made a soft clucking sound, her expression sympathetic. "No, my child. Your passage here was a unique occurrence, not to be repeated. But I offer you this promise. Whenever you feel the sun's warmth upon your face, watch the apples ripen and fall. See the snowflakes drift silently upon the winter air. Or hear the gentle rain nourishing your spring garden. Know that in those moments I am with you. Ilara embraced Dame Hall one last time, a farewell filled with gratitude and affection. Then she passed through the little white gate, turning to wave as she made her way down to the riverbank and began her journey upstream. Soon, Dame Hall's charming cottage dwindled in the distance, seeming almost to dissolve into the landscape. Ilara walked beside the river for what felt like many hours. It was a beautiful, wild waterway, rushing over smooth stones in foaming rapids and cascading down sparkling waterfalls. When the sun reached its zenith, she paused beneath a shady willow, taking sustenance from her magical basket, a piece of fragrant bread, a crisp, sweet apple. Both tasted divine. Continuing onward as the afternoon shadows stretched long, she finally spied it in the distance, a magnificent stone bridge arching gracefully across the entire breadth of the river, looking ancient and enduring. Recognizing her landmark, Ilara navigated the tall reeds at the water's edge and stepped hesitantly onto the bridge's approach, half expecting some enchantment. Nothing occurred. She proceeded onto the stone span, walking steadily towards the center. Reaching the midpoint, she paused, set down her basket, and looked back the way she had come. Dame Hall's cottage was long lost to sight, but the panorama was breathtaking. The river vanishing towards the horizon, flanked by woodland and the distant, silent mountains. She glanced down into the deepest, calmest part of the river flowing beneath her, taking one final look at the vast, cloudless sky above. Ilara retrieved her basket and walked resolutely towards the bridge's end. As she reached the far side, she held her breath. One foot landed on the grassy bank. Nothing changed. A flicker of anxiety. What if the magic failed? Made her close her eyes, tighten her grip on the basket, and take the final step. A rushing sound filled her ears, the roar of a great river, and a cool current of air washed over her, echoing the sensation of her fall into the well. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the familiar yard of her own home. A joyous clamor erupted. Her family rushed out, relief and happiness washing over their faces. Time, it seemed, had flowed concurrently in both worlds. Many months had passed since her disappearance. They crowded around her, eager for hugs, desperate to hear where their beloved Ilara had been. That evening, by the familiar glow of their own hearth, Ilara recounted the wondrous tale of Dame Holla and her magical realm to a captivated audience of siblings. Afterwards, the entire family shared a hearty meal. Thanks to the miraculous basket of bread and apples, which, true to Dame Holla's word, remained ever full. Ilara resumed her place within the family, taking up her chores with a newfound appreciation, understanding now how honest work truly kept the world turning. And from that day forward, whenever she heard the rain drumming softly on the roof, or sat spinning by the window, watching feathery snowflakes drift lazily down to blanket the earth, she smiled, knowing that somewhere, far away, Dame Hall was tending her realm, shaking her eider down, ensuring the seasons turned just as they should. Cobblestones hum beneath your feet, a resonant chime cleaving the air. Nearby, the delicate percussion of porcelain on saucer drifts from a sidewalk cafe, a counterpoint to the murmur of conversation. This artery of Bordeaux, narrow and picturesque, breathes without the intrusion of automobiles. A current of pedestrians, the occasional cyclist gliding past, animates its length. Yet, above the amiable hubbub, the bell's echo persists, a summons. You navigate towards an arranged meeting, the second day exploring this city's storied heart with your guide, Antoine. The bell's toll is no mere coincidence. It emanates from your very destination, the locus of your rendezvous, La Grosse Cloche, the Great Bell, a name whispered with reverence, marking one of France's most ancient belfries, a treasured sentinel of Bordeaux. Your gaze lifts, framed precisely at the street's terminus by handsome flanking facades. The bell tower asserts its presence. It echoes the aspect of another medieval gatehouse encountered earlier, that same tall, slender silhouette evoking storybook fortifications, a robust rectangle of stone crowned with conical turrets, pierced below by a grand archway. A true portal, this structure once guarded an entrance to the labyrinthine, walled Bordeaux of the Middle Ages, a necessary bastion in volatile times. Yet, distinctions emerge. Most striking, the colossal bell suspended within an aperture high on the edifice, the very instrument whose vibrations just now pulsed through the quarter, announcing its ritual monthly song. Its resonance also signals your appointed hour with Antoine, a meeting timed with his characteristic thoughtfulness, allowing you to first experience its formidable voice from a few streets remove. Drawing near the massive stone threshold, you spot him poised just beyond the arch's cool umbra. Antoine waits, his stance a blend of ease and attentiveness, a warm greeting, eyes alight with shared enthusiasm as he registers your visible awe. You witness that familiar spark ignite, the prelude to him unfurling the rich tapestry of his city's past, a subject he navigates with palpable devotion. After brief civilities, Antoine embarks on his forte, transforming historical threads and anecdotal gems into vivid narratives that bloom within the imagination. His first gesture directs your attention skyward to the gilded weather vane crowning the structure. A lion, he explains, emblem of English royalty. This gatehouse rose, he recounts, during an era when Bordeaux answered to the English throne. You recall the chronicle. The city, heart of the independent Duchy of Aquitaine, fell under English sway when its formidable Duchess, Eleanor, wed the future King of England. 3 centuries this connection endured, severed only by the protracted conflict known now as the 100 Years' War, ultimately binding Bordeaux to France. Though undeniably defensive, Antoine shares a tidbit. Long ago, locals playfully dubbed it the Hôtel du Lion d'Or, the Golden Lion Hotel, referencing that very weather vane. It's with such intimate details, delivered in his melodic cadence, that Antoine ensnares the imagination. For a fleeting moment, the boisterous mirth of medieval centuries seems to reverberate from the ancient stones, Together, you step beneath the arch, enveloped by its cool, shadowed embrace. Set into the time-worn, ochre-hued stone is an engraved plaque. Antoine gestures towards it. It offers a translation of the Latin verses etched upon the great bell itself, a poetic declaration of its manifold duties. Antoine murmurs his own rendition, a soft recitation. Amavoco, dies que significo, horas noto, proceya que peo, festa decoro, ignem que clamo. I summon to arms, I mark the days, I toll the hours. I drive away the storm, I grace the holidays, I proclaim the fire. And indeed, centuries past, its clarion call warned Bordeaux citizens of imminent assault or the ravages of flame. You proceed through the archway's passage, emerging onto the opposite side to regard the Grosse Cloche anew. Bathed now in the ascending warmth of the midday sun, you find yourselves on a slender pedestrian lane that opens onto a broader, contemporary thoroughfare beyond. There, a steady current of vehicles flows across dark asphalt, carrying the city's inhabitants onward. Today, Antoine explains, the bell's voice is reserved for select ceremonial moments, including noon on the first Sunday of each month. Its potent resonance marks New Year's Day and 4 other significant anniversaries. 3 commemorate the great wars of the 20th century, conflicts fought on this very soil, their echoes profound in the region's memory. November 11th, Armistice of the Great War. May 8th, cessation of hostilities in Europe for the Second World War. And August 28th, the liberation of Bordeaux itself. The bell also rings proudly on July 14th, Bastille Day, celebrating the dawn of the French Revolution, the fall of monarchy, and the eventual rise of the Republic. The soft sibilance of traffic from the modern avenue filters into your awareness as you absorb these historical markers. Sunlight suffuses you with a tranquil contentment, your thoughts drifting agreeably. In such a place, the very pulse of history feels tangible. The unbroken thread of human lives palpable, where antiquity and modernity intertwine with such effortless grace. Discrete metal bollards delineate the pedestrian haven from the bustling roadway, retractable, for necessary access. Here, stone sets form an intricate, pleasingly archaic pattern underfoot, a contrast to the smooth asphalt nearby. A woman captures a moment, framing 2 smiling children against the backdrop of the ancient tower. 2 youths, likely students, meander past, one leisurely guiding a bright blue bicycle. They move without haste. Their passage inadvertently highlights a detail previously overlooked. A dozen vibrant bicycles parked in orderly ranks along the building line, presumably outside a cycle shop, lending a touch of quotidian charm to this venerable setting. The impromptu photo session concludes. The children's happy chatter fades as they skip off. Beside you, Antoine's voice resumes its narrative thread. The gatehouse holds tales, he murmurs, but so too does the bell within. Or rather, the bells is plural, for many have hung within this monument across the centuries. He recounts an episode from 5 centuries past, shortly after Bordeaux swore fealty to France. A punitive king confiscated the city's bell following an uprising. Years later, it was reinstated as a reward for renewed loyalty. That particular bell, the one claimed by the petulant monarch, is lost to time naturally. Yet its current successor is itself venerable, cast in 1775, on the cusp of a revolution across the Atlantic. Now, Antoine guides you away from this medieval echo, turning towards a more recent facet of Bordeaux. You face the asphalt expanse again, its steady automotive flow. This avenue, broader than the serpentine lanes of the old quarter, boasts generous sidewalks. It pulses with the rhythm of a contemporary city, though reminders of antiquity remain omnipresent. Elegant edifices of warm-hued stone, adorned with intricate wrought-iron balconies, line the way, reminiscent, perhaps, of the Parisian architecture etched in the popular imagination of French urbanity. Mature, leafy trees cast dappled shade across the pavements. You proceed beneath this pleasant canopy, watching the city's life unfold while admiring the stately facades. One building commands particular attention. Large rectangular windows, screened by decorative ironwork, its stone face embellished with elaborate carvings. Twin columns flank a monumental arched entranceway, framing double doors of polished wood, their surfaces a masterpiece of intricate relief. You halt, momentarily captivated by its sheer artistry. Above this splendid portal, etched into the stone in refined script, Université de Bordeaux. A quiet intake of breath acknowledges the beauty of this bastion of knowledge. Then you move onward, Antoine steering you towards the next chapter of your exploration. There's no rush. Both you and Antoine understand that simply traversing these timeless streets, observing, absorbing, is the experience. Your breathing finds a gentle rhythm. Your steps fall into easy synchronicity. Presently, you arrive at Rue Sainte-Catherine, celebrated as Europe's lengthiest pedestrian thoroughfare. Turning onto it, you're instantly enveloped by its potent charm. A vibrant artery of commerce and leisure, it teems with people, some purposeful on errands, others meandering contentedly. An air of collective enjoyment pervades. How could it be otherwise? The street's intrinsic beauty rivals the allure of its enticing shopfronts. Underfoot, glossy, lozenge-shaped paving stones in pale beige, bordered by contrasting square gray tiles, creating an elegant pattern. The soft scuff of countless shoes on this polished surface blends with the ambient hum of voices. A young woman drifts past, laden with shopping bags on one arm, a vibrant bouquet clutched in the other. Approaching from the opposite direction, an older gentleman ambles along, the unmistakable form of a long, slender baguette protruding from a peculiar cloth satchel slung over his shoulder. A bag whose singular, narrow design declares its sole purpose. You follow the captivating street onward until another imposing archway looms ahead, signaling the culmination of Rue Sainte-Catherine. This structure differs markedly from the Grosse Cloche, where your day's journey commenced. Its vault arches significantly higher, unburdened by the fortress-like mass of the medieval gate. This is a triumphal arch, erected in the 18th century after the city's ancient ramparts were dismantled. Through its opening, perfectly framed, stands a tall, slender obelisk presiding over a vast square. This, Antoine informs you, is the Place de la Victoire, Victory Square. Passing beneath the impressive arch, you step onto an expansive cobblestone plaza. White stones inlay diamond motifs that radiate outward from the central obelisk. This intriguing monument is fashioned from a so-called red marble, now weathered to a softer, pinkish hue by sun and time. Nearby, a massive bronze turtle statue seems poised to crawl away from the obelisk's base. Both column and creature, Antoine clarifies, are relatively recent additions, conceived to celebrate the paramount importance of viticulture to Bordeaux. The turtle symbolizes the industry's slow, deliberate development since Roman times, when choice vines were first introduced millennia ago. In bygone eras, this wide expanse served as fairgrounds, situated just beyond the city's protective walls. Today, it thrives with activity. People amble across its breadth or relax casually at the obelisk's foot. A cluster of youths engages in animated discussion, and cyclists glide smoothly over the time-worn stones. Antoine suggests a pause, perhaps a refreshing drink at one of the cafes bordering the square. You accept with pleasure. He guides you towards a neat alignment of inviting chairs beneath broad crimson umbrellas. You settle into the comfortable embrace of woven vinyl seating. A waiter, distinguished by a pristine apron tied neatly at his waist, materializes. You request a menthe à l'eau. This invigorating concoction, sweet mint syrup, stirred into chilled mineral water, is a personal favorite. Its appeal lies partly in its crisp coolness, especially welcome on a warm afternoon like this one, but predominantly in its distinctiveness. For you, it viscerally embodies the essence of southern France, instantly conjuring the region's unique magic for every sense. The waiter returns bearing your drink in a tall, slim glass. The liquid within glows a vivid emerald green, the exterior of the glass misted with condensation, appearing almost frosted. A pleasingly sharp mint aroma rises to meet you. You inhale deeply. The first sip delivers a clean, cool sensation across your palate. From the surrounding tables, a polyglot murmur drifts on the afternoon air, voices conversing in a medley of the world's languages. Closing your eyes for a moment, you simply listen. The diverse cadences and tongues seem to meld, coalescing into a single, unified human expression that, you imagine, verges on comprehension. French flows from several directions, naturally. Close by, the musicality of Italian, the name Bordeaux, uttered with near reverence. Further off, a fragment of English, praising the grand square. From another point, the melodic rise and fall of a Scandinavian language. Woven through this linguistic tapestry is a common thread, an undercurrent of enthusiasm, of appreciation, a shared awe for the enduring beauty crafted by human hands that envelops you all. It is this collective energy, this resonance, that forms the composite voice you sense you understand. Its meaning, its emotion, resonates deep within, mirroring the universal human experience, connecting these visitors from across the globe, and connecting you all, in turn, to the countless lives whose stories imbue this place. You draw a slow breath, a profound sense of kinship with every soul present and every soul past. settling within you. A feeling of unity with the world unfurls, with the immediate surroundings, with the vast sweep of history. And as you exhale, a complete tranquility descends, grounding you perfectly in this place, this moment, within the unfolding narrative of Bordeaux.